Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 4 of I Am Robot's podcast. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. In today's episode, we will be talking about the negative inner voice and the inner enemy. So, let's get started. The greatest enemy we face, that's indeed greater than any external threat, is uncontrolled mind and is our inner voice. But what do we mean by uncontrolled mind? Uncontrolled mind is basically the mental habit that makes you timid when it comes to dealing with certain difficult situations. And also, it allows oppressive and frustrated feelings to build up inside you. So, as a result of that, you might freak out or blow up, hence becoming your own worst enemy. However, conquering your inner enemy is like fighting an opponent we can't see. It's something you can't see. So, let's say do you sometimes feel as despite of your best effort and everything you are doing that you are not reaping the success you crave or you aim for? If your answer is yes, then it's time to identify and control your inner enemy, which is sabotaging your success, sabotaging your feelings. So identifying your enemy is relatively easy matter. Your enemy is really your inner me. Your inner me is really your mind, and it's your thoughts that are creating the results you are getting. In other words, let me say this, your inner world is actually creating your outer world. So your outer world is being created by your inner world. So doing the work on your inner me will pay a huge dividend. But when you do the work on you, your actions will, as consequence, change, and the intent and power behind your actions will also change. This will ultimately lead to changes in your results. But notice here I said ultimately, because the changes may not be immediately apparent, so you may not have immediate results. But you will have to be patient, remain focused, and persistent in your effort. Often it will be when you are pushed to your limits that success will come knocking at your door. When you go out of your comfort zone, success will be on your face. But you need to trust me when I tell you that nobody, and by nobody I literally mean nobody, ever wants to believe that they are the problem. And usually the mirror is the last place we look for solutions to problems in our life. Problems like stress and anxiety, depression, where actually the mirror should be the first place we look into when we have a problem. Self doubt, lack of confidence, lack of motivation are all actually byproducts of our inner self. So sometimes we are actually the cause of our own failures, our downfalls. But luckily, we have a solution. And the solution is we just have to be aware of this monster inside of us. We need to understand its game plan and overpower its demoralizing voice, because this voice is letting us down and letting us lose our motivation and courage. So you might be asking, what do I need to know? So we will be talking about reasons why of all people you are your number one worst enemy, and how you can overcome your negative voice. But as a suggestion, read books, watch videos of people who are actually specialized in this thing. So let's start. Number one, you are your own worst critic. Don't get me wrong here. It's good to be a strict judge of your own character. But the problem arises when you take it too far. When you constantly criticize and find faults with what you do and who you are, you will never reach a level of satisfaction to be truly content with yourself. If you tend to judge yourself too much, you are actually holding yourself back. So you need to get to know this voice that criticizes you. Try to understand where it comes from and why you are listening to it. And don't beat yourself for every mistake after all, because experience through mistakes is actually a perfect way, and method of learning. Constantly over criticizing yourself will hold you back, hamper your confidence, and make you dwell on things that may not even matter. Also, on the list, actually, you are failing to appreciate the small things. In the pursuit of our goals, as humans, we fail to take a second and appreciate the smaller things around us. Literally, smaller things we don't consider at all. Let me give you an example. Let's say the aroma rising from a cup of coffee in the morning, or the cool breeze that follows a rainfall on a hot day. Even the small things we do on a daily basis, anything we do and achieve on a daily basis actually matters. One of the fundamental goals in everyone's life, your life, my life, everyone's life, is to have a pleasurable time here on earth. But when you begin to appreciate every little thing before your eyes on a day to day basis, you will undoubtedly feel enriched, feel happier, feel satisfied. So the trick is to keep up with that, because concerns and problems will always bog down our mind and distract our attention. So this becomes especially important in the context of our own success. If we fail to appreciate small things that we accomplish, that we do, we will begin to lose a sense of self-respect. So to be honest, it requires a degree of optimism and having a positive mindset. But taking into account all the good things you do on a small scale will help you build your own confidence, motivation, and self-respect. Number three is that you take too much for granted. And this one is actually connected to the previous point I mentioned. If you are reading this, then you are somewhere with an internet connection and likely with a roof over your head and some time to spare as well. So, when was the last time you stopped to truly appreciate your circumstances, to appreciate everything you have and you do? And why should we even bother? When you don't take things for granted, you simply squeeze more out of life. We always hear kids in Africa, but do we really take time to stop and think of how privileged we may be in the midst of all our complaining? We are always as a humans, we are complaining, but we are not looking at what we have. We're taking everything for granted. Whether it's our health, our abilities, the love from friends, family, our hobbies, the aromas around us, the views around us. So we all have something that we can be truly grateful for. So here you have to be grateful for everything you have. Don't take things for granted. And last thing on the list is you don't regularly meditate, because meditation is scientifically proven as a practice that can help you silence the inner voice and the critic, and actually it will inspire you to be attentive to the messages of our heart. It will help us as well to woven into the practice of self-love. Meditation is actually one way to remember our inner goodness, with the idea that when we reflect on our positive traits, actually we are building a bridge to place self-compassion and caring and self-love and self-respect as well. So try to integrate meditation in your daily life, even for 10 minutes. It will help you silence your mind, to become more aware, to, to increase your self-awareness, to be more self-compassion with yourself. That being said, this is today's episode. We hope you learned something from this episode. I hope you can take something from this episode. So, just to summarize everything, we have four reasons why we are our own worst enemy. Number one, we are our own worst critic always. Number one, we are our own worst critic. Number two, we fail to appreciate the small things. Number three, we take too much for granted. And the last one, we don't usually meditate. That's the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. If you missed any of the previous episodes, you can find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Podomatic, and on YouTube. And stay tuned for the next episode. Until next time, be extraordinary, be robust. To appreciate the small things. Number three, we take too much for granted. And the last one, We don't usually meditate. That's the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. If you missed any of the previous episodes, you can find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Podomatic, and on YouTube. And stay tuned for the next episode. Until next time, be extraordinary, be robust.